Administrator role and setup task. You are the new administrator. You recently joined a company that's been using NetSuite for some time. You have been assigned the role of NetSuite Administrator. As a new administrator, you may have several questions. You may wonder, what does NetSuite expect of me as the NetSuite Administrator? What about documentation? Where can I review account configurations and settings? After completing this module, you should be able to identify the administrator responsibilities, take advantage and use the online documentation, and, most importantly, navigate the Setup Manager to access and complete many of the administrator tasks. Who is the NetSuite Administrator? The NetSuite Administrator is the primary contact for NetSuite communications. Administrators receive notifications directly from NetSuite. Your users consider you as their key contact. When your company went through implementation, the administrator was assigned implementation task or setup of the NetSuite application. As the current administrator, you manage the ongoing maintenance of the NetSuite application. The administrator is a very special type of user. They have full visibility into all areas of the NetSuite account, and they have complete access to the Setup Manager. The Setup Manager is the gateway to common administrator tasks. The key administrator tasks are varied, yet they are going to be focused on aspects around account maintenance and management. Daily account maintenance issues may come up, and you need to manage the issues. You must be able to offer user support, technical in-system support, making sure the configuration has been done correctly. You are that point of contact for your end users. Customization is an important tool as business requirements change. For example, maybe the salespeople want to have an additional field on a form they use. Being able to help with adapting, modifying, and tailoring NetSuite to meet your current business. Consider the account usage and performance. Monitor and audit your end user activity. How is the system performing, and how can you monitor that performance? Ensure that quality of the account data by performing regular audits in the account, reviewing and resolving any data integrity issues. Support user adoption and help with additional documentation. Remember, you are the contact person for your user community, and you are the key contact for NetSuite. Here are the setup and maintenance areas, accessed from the Setup Manager. As the administrator, you can revisit any of these areas in an active NetSuite account. Enabling features. The NetSuite account is provisioned, and during implementation, the initial configuration is done. Enabling features turns on switches to enable functionality in the account. Some have dependent preferences. For example, an accounting feature that requires the definition of a related accounting preference. Company information. We can set up company information, including your company's name and address information. This information may be edited. Set company preferences. Company preferences can be at the time of implementation and defined to enforce consistency of data entry across the account. Review the company-wide preferences. Do not allow users to override preferences to maintain data entry consistency such as date or phone number format. Custom elements. Your company may use custom elements to meet business requirements. Custom elements may include customized roles, which is a best practice. A NetSuite account comes with standard roles, which are used to create custom roles. Assign users the appropriate custom role. Customized records. What do customer, vendor, contact, employee records look like in your NetSuite account? What is the required information to capture? Do you need new fields added? Develop a custom form that creates or updates the record. For example, create a custom version of the customer form to capture the information needed by your company. Set up employee and payroll features to meet your needs. Import data. Importing data from an external source, bringing it into NetSuite saves manual entry and updates. CSV imports happen at the time of implementation, but they continue to happen throughout the life of your NetSuite account. A good example might be if your company is doing marketing trade shows. You can import in a list of leads that were a result of the trade show. Employee records. How you enter in employee records depends upon the growth of your company. This might be something that happens frequently or infrequently. Updating employee records is part of account administration and maintenance. Not all of you will be using customer relationship management or Salesforce automation, but certainly there would be things that we need to be tailored in the NetSuite account. There are user guides that address service and sales automation as well as marketing. You can also review accounting and inventory user guides, investigate a basic inventory task of creating a new item. If you're going to have a website, review the available features and settings. As the administrator, become familiar with the areas being used by your company. Administrators can access NetSuite documentation, which explains the functional capabilities in NetSuite. In the administrator role, navigate to Setup, Setup Manager. The dashboard for Setup displays. Click the Help link on the top right-hand side of the page. In a new browser tab, the Help Center opens. NetSuite Account Administration displays in the center of the page. You can view the table of contents on the left-hand side. This page provides hyperlinks with various topics such as the center's overview, enabling features, and others. Going back to the table of contents, we'll close the account administration and we'll go into NetSuite Basics. Upon entering NetSuite Basics, we see that we have a Getting Help topic. Opening Getting Help, we see we have a NetSuite Documentation Overview. If we click on that hyperlink for NetSuite Documentation Overview, you see that we get a listing of the documentation for various aspects in the NetSuite application, such as ERP, CRM, Salesforce automation, e-commerce, and others. If I wanted to see more information about ERP, I could click the ERP documentation summary. I can look more closely at the ERP topics, and at the bottom, I see a list of related topics. After reviewing the initial account administration information, access the NetSuite Documentation Overview to see the grouping of summary documentation. This can be accessed by navigating to Help, and then to NetSuite Basics, Getting Help, NetSuite Documentation Overview. Click any hyperlink to view the documentation for the product area. For example, ERP Documentation Summary. In this walkthrough, we access the Setup Manager and review another listing of documentation groupings. Where do you start reviewing the account setup? Navigate to Setup, Setup Manager. The Welcome to the Setup Manager page displays. This presents some of the same information we saw in the last walkthrough. In the center of the page, I can look at documentation for company setup, CRM setup, ERP, and website setup. Clicking on one of the overviews will display the related information in a new browser tab. If I click on the Company Setup Overview, It will navigate to an appropriate page in the NetSuite Help to view task descriptions that are involved with account administration or company setup. For example, account setup requires enabling features, setting company preferences, defining classifications for NetSuite records, and setting up centers. If I click on Account Setup, we see the same information we saw in the last walkthrough. Remember that documentation is available for the various administrator tasks in the Help Center. In the left-hand navigation pane, I can click on Company. Under the Setup task, viewing links to pages for completing setup tasks. For example, hyperlinks for defining company settings, like company information and general preferences, using this page to set company-wide preferences. After clicking on Setup Manager, we can view the Welcome page. Click on one of the overviews and then drill down to related documentation. View the links to overview documentation for company setup, CRM setup, ERP setup, and website setup. Click Company Setup Overview to view the Account Administration Documentation Summary page, listing common tasks for the administrator. Setup tasks and preferences previously completed may need to be reviewed. Company information, address and other information, enable features, turn on or off functionality as your business changes, auto-generated numbers, the numbering of records, general preferences, company-wide settings to override user preferences, printing and fax, company-wide settings, email preferences, company-wide settings. Classifications are normally defined at implementation, with new values added as needed. In a one-world account, multiple legal entities are created as subsidiaries. Other basic classifications are for reporting purposes, such as department, class, and location. Company management and NetSuite account information can also be reviewed. This walkthrough allows us to review company information, features, and the use of auto-generated numbers. Where is the company's main information entered? As the administrator, navigate to Setup, Company, Company Information. This allows us to review or enter key company information. I'll begin by editing or changing my company name. If necessary, confirm the county, state, and province. This will display on all forms except for checks. On the right side, you'll see Account ID. This ID is used when communicating with support. This is a training account, TSTDRV, which means a test drive or demo account. In the lower section, on the Address subtab, we want to confirm our addresses. Notice that we have a partial address entered, Sweet Dreams, Sweet Furniture Admin Training. We have a street address of 2200 El Camino. Notice this, that if you insert a zip code, and tab out, that it will fill in the appropriate city and state for this address. Click OK. You see that you have a shipping address that can be refined for receiving shipments. You see that you have a return address that can be defined for receiving returned orders. On the company URL, notice that you have the Customer Center login URL. This URL is for customers to access the Customer Center. Click Save, and done. What are the features that are currently enabled in my account, and how are they driving the account functionality? Navigate to Setup, Company, Enable Features. This allows us to review available and enabled features. Features are grouped on different subtabs. What about accounting features, tax features, all the way over to Web Presence and Suite Cloud? Currently, I just want to review features on the Company subtab. The use of classifications can help measure your business through reporting and restrict user access. Track sales activity or assign employees to departments. Locations may be used to stock inventory in different locations, and classes are just a wider category. For example, indicate outside versus direct sales classification using the class. Please note, the classifications may be renamed to suit your needs under Setup, Company, Rename Records and Transactions. Scroll down and review other features within the Projects, ERP General, Resource Management, and International. Running a global business can benefit from features in the International section. Note that related suite apps are displayed within various sections. Enable duplicate detection and merge in the Data Management section to facilitate for data integrity. Review other groupings and refer to the Help. On each subtab are groupings of features. Related help topics are available. The Suite Cloud subtab provides features for customization and scripting, both of which can further tailor NetSuite to meet the needs of your company. Confirm or enable custom records to collect needed information and integrate with standard NetSuite records. It is displayed, review the terms of service, and click Agree. Click Save for any changes to take effect. Are we numbering our customer records? Are we defining numbering schemes for sales orders or other transactions? Navigate to Setup, Company, Auto-Generated Numbers. This allows us to set numbering definitions for different record types on the record subtabs. Entities. Uncheck Enable for all entities. If the partner is checked, notice that the subpartner cannot be unchecked. Document numbers. All transactions are numbered by default. This allows setting of attributes and numbering schemes. Review this area to determine if your company has defined numbering schemes and transaction attributes, such as prefixes and suffixes. Available CRM. These records are dependent upon features turned on, such as issue management or marketing campaigns. Schedules are dependent upon enable features such as revenue recognition. Click Save if any changes have been made. Company information is normally done upon implementation. As the administrator, be aware of the information that can be entered, edited, and what these fields control. Company name, prints on forms. Company logo, forms or page. County, state, province, displays on checks and forms. Return email address, used when emailing forms and reports from NetSuite. First fiscal month. First month of your fiscal year. Time zone. Company time zone versus the user. Please note that record entry edits are timestamped per user's time zone. Address. Prints on forms. Shipping address for receiving shipments. Return address for receiving returned orders. Available features are organized on subtabs in functional groupings. Features enabled during implementation may be revisited and changed. Enable additional features as needed to fit your changing business requirements. Some features may be disabled. Others require assistance from NetSuite support. Enabling or disabling features may have an impact to available preferences. For example, various accounting preferences. Some production accounts may display features differently, depending upon whether they selected horizontal labels under General Preferences. Classifications are not mandatory. Classifications enable more accurate tracking and allocation of transactions to deepen the visibility and knowledge of the business to managers. Leveraged on the concept of cost centers, classification provide immediate functionality to segment and classify a business. Departments can be used to designate a transaction's owner and resources as part of internal team. Locations are interrelated with classes and departments and are best applied to places of the business, whether virtual or physical. Classes are best used for wider categorization within your business, business unit, or division. Classifications, departments, and classes can impact permissions and roles, restrict what users will be able to see and do depending on the restrictions within their roles. In a OneWorld account, consider how to best use classifications with subsidiaries. Transactions by default are numbered. Auto-generated numbering of other records can be useful. Defining numbering schemes, prefixes, suffixes, and other record attributes can be useful. Administrators need to know where to define these attributes and study the implications of the settings. Pay attention to the warnings on the Setup Auto-Generated Numbers page. This walkthrough demonstrates the different preferences that can be defined. Navigate to Setup, Company, General Preferences. This is where we define preferences for all account users. In the top of the page are company-wide preferences that can be set, and in the lower portion of the page, we decide which preferences cannot be overridden. Set the first day of the week for time tracking purposes. Provide consistency in data entry by setting a phone number format and do not allow the users to override. This will apply to a 10-digit phone number, such as United States and Canada. The various checkboxes are available for review, looking at field help and other related help topics. Define strong password policy to support account security. Field help will give details on strong, medium, and weak. The minimum password length is determined by the settings for the password policy. When administrators provide access to new user, a registration link may be provided. Set the number of hours that the URL is active when setting up a new user. On the right-hand side, define settings for optimization. number of rows in list segments, maximum entries and drop-downs. These numbers impact how long it takes to display data. For example, when you're viewing a list of records, NetSuite's going to divide the visible list that's available into segments of 50 rows of records to be displayed at one time. When using a drop-down field, define the maximum number of records to display in the drop-down before scroll bars appear. For search results, show list when only one result. This provides users with a consistent view of search results. Whether 1 or 20 results, the user will still see a list. Select radio buttons determine how company deals with customers, vendors, partners, individual versus company. Scroll down to Company General Preferences, lower section to define override settings. Overriding Preference subtab. This allows users the ability to override settings and enforce the selected preferences. Other subtabs may include languages. Languages set languages you want to translate information for your website and on printed transactions. This is only visible if multiple languages have been enabled. Centers. Set a unique logout page instead of the default by center. Accounting context. Only available in One World accounts and pertains to GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles and other standards. Save the general preference changes. Navigate to Setup, Company, Printing and Fax, Printing subtab. Review the settings in the General, Transactions, and Advanced PDF HTML printing. Use field help and related help topics. Also on this page is check printing setup. Set your default check type. Select Standard for checks printed without a voucher, 3 to an 8.5 by 11-inch sheet. Select Voucher for checks printed at the top of an 8.5 by 11-inch sheet with voucher information printed on the bottom stub. Messages can define disclaimers on forms, but it is recommended to customize each form and not to use these disclaimer boxes. The Fax subtab defines your interaction with eFax or fax away. You must first register with one of the services and then enter the information in NetSuite. The registered email address field is where you set up an email address to be used with faxes. This email will receive all fax notifications. Click Save to keep any changes. Navigate to Setup, Company, Email Preferences, and this will allow us to set up global email preferences. In the General section, there are a few settings. Define a global footer. This allows you to enter text that can be included on every outbound email message. See more information in the field Help. Select a campaign email domain to be used with bulk emails. On the Transactions subtab, review field help for customers default to email transactions and vendors default to email transactions. Use pop-up for main transaction email button. This is very useful for your users so that they can define all recipients, provide a message, and add attachments. If this box is not checked, when the user clicks email, the system generates an email uses the entity record for recipients and sends the email. Selecting Use pop-up for main transaction email button allows users an opportunity to use a pop-up email interface to control who receives the email and the email content. Send to all administrators. This is often checked upon implementation and may no longer be needed. Review other subtabs. If you do a lot of bulk email or email marketing, be sure to review help topics on domain keys. Typically, we recommend somebody with a technical background work with domain keys. The sandbox and release preview are discussed later in this course. We reviewed all various preferences and can now confirm the impact to user preferences. Go to Home, Set Preferences. You can point out any preferences that is grayed out, since the formatting was defined at the company level and the user cannot override. Set company-wide preferences and decide whether users can override. Set date and phone number format. If you set phone number format, it will carry through to online forms. This works with 10-digit phone numbers. Define settings to facilitate optimization. Set Show List when only one result to provide a consistent view of search results. For more information, refer to Help Topics, Setting General Account Preferences, and Overriding Company Preferences. Review settings on the printing subtab, such as Printing, Check Printing, to set your default check type. Click on the Fax subtab and review settings. Remember to register your fax provider first, and then enter information on the Fax subtab, Registered Email Address. Set up an email address to be used with faxes. This email will receive all fax notifications. Review the general settings. Each subtab provides additional settings. The following settings should be reviewed on the Transactions subtab. Email, Transactions, use pop-up for main transaction email button. This is very useful for your users so that they can define all recipients, provide a message, and add attachments. Email, Transactions, send to all administrators. This is often checked upon implementation and may no longer be needed. Review other subtabs and review help topics on domain keys. Sandbox and Release Preview will be reviewed later in this course. Go to Home, Set Preferences, and confirm company-wide settings for formatting and other preferences. This walkthrough continues with Company Setup Review. Go to Setup, Setup Manager. We'll use the left panel to navigate to Company, and we'll scroll down to the Email section. System email templates are where we view and edit standard email templates. Scrolling down to Company Management, System alerts are where we find notification to administrators. Bulk Processing Status List. It's a single page where an administrator can view the status and history of all bulk processing jobs. We can also navigate to it from Setup, Company, Company Management, Bulk Processing Status List. We can view the status of the bulk processing jobs. We can narrow the list by hitting Customize View. Here we could narrow the list to say processing type, submission status, and date created. In addition, we can go to our filters and specify the date that the bulk processing job was created, or we could choose the style that we would like the list to display. For more information, see the help topic about bulk processing jobs. Duplicate detection. This is where we have discussed earlier. If you do not see this, then you did not enable the feature. Administrative notifications. Define the behavior of each notification type. Sandbox accounts. Review details about your purchase sandbox account and to request refreshes of these accounts. This demo account has no sandbox account. Release preview is tied to NetSuite release schedule. Now view the list of NetSuite account information. View billing terms. This outlines billing processes and procedures. View billing information. This allows review of what was provisioned in the account. Billable components, add-on modules, add-on bundles, provisioning history, and component usage. If you recall, this was covered in Module 1. NetSuite Support Login. This allows you to select when you want to allow NetSuite support to log into your account. Always, never, or just for the duration of your case. Close account redirects you to contacting support to see if support can help you before you close your account. Go to Home Dashboard, right-click, and view Source Page. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you will see that there is a reference to your account ID and your email login. Also, your account ID can be found, for example, when you are in Documents of the File Cabinet, you'll notice that when you are in edit of any of the items in the file cabinet, you'll see a reference in the URL to your account ID. Go to Setup, Company, Email and Company Management sections to access the following pages: System Email Templates, System Alerts, Bulk Processing Status List, Administrative Notifications, Sandbox Accounts. If your company has purchased a sandbox, use this page to review details about your sandbox accounts and to request refreshes of these accounts. Scroll further down in Setup, Company, and access the following account information pages: View Billing Terms, View Billing Information, NetSuite Support Login, Close Account. This requires the account number. These exercises further familiarize you with pages used by the administrator. Completed tasks facilitate other exercises in this course. Allow yourself 10 to 20 minutes. Review additional resources. This concludes the Administrator Role and Setup Task module.